Hello, welcome to episode 130 of the Noclip podcast. 130 and feeling dirty. Frank Howley, how dirty are you right now?
Filthy. I'm covered in skeleton bones and dust and blood and
Oh my god. Yeah. That is incredibly dirty. Jeremy, you had a shower last night. Are you feeling dirty?
Oh, you know that I always start the day in a dirty way.
Well,
I will not elaborate.
That's what it is. Jeremy has a beautiful, like in your kitchen, you have like one of those beautiful signs that's been like knitted, right? That says, what did you say? I start every day in a dirty way.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah. Well, there you go. Thank you for joining us on this podcast, the dirtiest video game podcast in the world. We're here to talk about some actual video games this week. We played, some games came out. We're going to talk about Street Fighter 6. We're going to talk about Diablo 4. We're going to talk about that hot new release, Earthbound. I'm going to talk about Dave the Diver, which is a game that I feel like it feels like, I don't know, a bunch of like my friends have gotten into a cult and they're slowly trying to get me to join the cult and dropping this name, Dave the Diver. It's been early access since October, I think, and I played a bunch of it yesterday. So I want to talk about that as well. We've got plenty to talk about. But first of all, how's everyone doing? What's going on? Jeremy, how you doing? What's going on?
I'm excellent, man. I've just been doing some coding and playing Earthbound, playing a lot of Earthbound. In fact, the entirety of Earthbound. And I am very excited to talk about it, to share my passion.
What's the status on your game at the moment? Because obviously a lot of fans of Jane Dev will be listening to this. I will put my hand up as the reason there has not been any more Jane Dev in the past couple of months, because we've had a lot of projects that have needed to get done. But how is the game coming along? Where is it at? Like what can you tell, or what don't you want to tell? I guess. Yeah, that's part of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's one of the more difficult things. Is not only did we have to shift like Noclip budget over to documentaries about other people's video games, but also it's gotten more difficult to kind of share what I'm working on, because a lot of it is story oriented, because I'm working on a very narrative heavy game. So it's kind of like showing off it in pieces would be like, oh, and here's the ending, and this is what the ending looks like, and here's where a pivotal character gets shot and dies. But yeah, no, it's been going really good. So I've basically, at this point, I've gray boxed the entire world. I've got a ton of assets. I've sort of fleshed out some of the areas of the world more thoroughly with more polished and finished assets. A lot of the last year, honestly, has just been kind of getting good at 3D art, like just learning how to model and how to texture paint and how to make things that I think look like they belong in a video game, and not like
shaders and stuff, right? You've been working on some of that bits and bobs, because you showed me some of it. It looks super cool.
Thank you. It was funny because getting into shaders at first was kind of like, oh, I'm bad at 3D art, so maybe I can gussy it up with a little shader magic.
Drop a filter on it.
Yeah, exactly. If I put it in 140p, everyone will be like, oh, this is cool pixel art. But over time, I've kind of leaned less on the shaders as I've gotten better at 3D modeling and texturing and stuff, which has been cool to kind of like, it's like, I feel, isn't there a story, Jimi Hendrix used to sing behind a curtain or something because he thought he sucked at singing, and then...
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, it was like in the studio, I think he had to go behind a curtain and sing, so I feel like I've been slowly pulling, but I'm like, oh, I don't need the curtain anymore, like this looks pretty good. But yeah, so I've got the entire world gray boxed, I've got the entire story basically written, not all of the like every line of dialogue, but the rough arcs of everything, and a lot of the dialogue written. I've got a dialogue engine. I've got like the clue examining engine that I showed off in one of the Jane Dev episodes.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I've basically got like,
what are you gonna do with it? Do you know what you're gonna do? You're gonna put it out on itch, or are you gonna work on it for 15 years and never put it out? Or
yeah, I'm planning to go as deep as possible into development hell, and then I'm planning to have like a mental breakdown in the next 2 to 5 years and then release it. Now, I would like to have I'd like to have the first 20-ish minutes of the game playable at some point this year.
Oh, that's cool.
Because I would like to put it in front of people, give them something they can play without spoiling the entire game, and then, kind of build excitement around the rest of the game. And also just see if people resonate with these characters in this world and the story that I want to tell and the type of gameplay that the game has. But yeah, I feel like as it goes on, usually what happens with projects that of this magnitude is you work on them for a long time and you start to question whether or not it's even worth making. And I feel like this is only gaining momentum. The more I work on it, the more I feel like it's a story worth telling and a game worth making. So
do you feel more, because like right now, like, because you don't work like 5 days a week on Noclip stuff, right? It's fairly packed into like these dense kind of like 2 week periods. Do you feel more like a game dev now than an editor? Because you've been doing a lot of work on this thing for the past like 9 months, 12 months.
I feel like, honestly, it's kind of, I feel like the relationship is kind of 50-50 at the moment.
Oh, cool.
Because I spend an absurd amount of time doing game dev. And yeah, it's kind of cool. I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm sure anyone who gets into any new creative medium and tries to get serious about it feels at some point like, you're like, when do I call myself a game dev? Like,
right.
I updated my Twitter bio and I was like, I do game dev. I didn't say like I am a game dev because it feels presumptuous. But yeah, no, I've been taking it very seriously, and I really want to make something that in fact, I won't get ahead of myself and talk about Earthbound yet, but replaying Earthbound has kind of put me in touch with why I liked games as a kid. Because games for me as a kid were very much about the stories and about like interactive narrative worlds, and replaying Earthbound has kind of like freed me up a little bit to feel sometimes because I'm working on a very narrative heavy game. I kind of, and it's something that's like detective-y and about talking to people and investigating and kind of looking for clues and presenting, item A at point B and seeing if you can get result C. Sometimes I feel like it's not gamey enough. Like I'm like, there needs to be like, what about like when you jump on
like
the blocks?
Combat system.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah.
I mean, it had a combat system when
Where's
I started
my skill
it.
tree?
Yeah, like I gutted the entire combat system because I was like, this A, I'll never finish this if it's too big, and B, like, when you're a solo indie dev, you just need to be ruthlessly efficient. You need to like pare it down to just the essential core of what this needs to be.
Especially on your first like game.
Yeah,
you know
like commercial game. Yeah, because I've made like I've made like little point and clicks and RPGs for people as like gifts and joke games for friends and stuff. But yeah, like
your first like mass market or whatever it is.
Like if I want to charge money to people for this, I feel like I need to really figure out what it is and hone in on it. And replaying Earthbound and realizing how much the writing and the narrative were kind of the hook for me as a kid. I feel like it has given a little more wind in my sails to be like, it's okay to just, games can be a storytelling medium primarily. It doesn't always need to be about like dodging and shooting and looting.
Dodging and shooting and looting, man. There's a lot of that going on in Diablo 4. That's like you just set up like I can't not do the segue. You know what I mean? Like it's just such a beautiful one. Frank Howley. How far are you in attempting to die in a way in which Megan Fox will go on Twitter and either praise or shit talk the way you died? In perhaps the weirdest piece of game marketing, especially with the company that has a lot of sexual harassment lawsuits flying around it. It seemed particularly odd that they went that way, but Blizzard be Blizzard, I guess. How are you enjoying Diablo, and do you want to see Megan Fox on your timeline?
Yeah, I saw that marketing ad like yesterday. I've still never seen Jennifer's body, which now I really want to. But
which is presumably what she's referencing when she says "I like blood" and not like
what is
her
this?
own.
What is this ad? I've not seen this ad.
So what's her name? Megan Fox. There's a Twitter ad that Megan Fox turns up dressed in like an incredibly sort of like. What would you call it? Like gothic sort of looking dress, skin tight, and her she's looking super intense, not like Diablo-esque. She doesn't look like a Diablo character, but she looks like a sort of like an Elvira sort of. Is that her name, Elvira? Yeah, sort of like vibe, right? And she's basically saying like, send me GIFs or videos of your deaths and I'll tell you if you were like. She's basically doing the like good boy or yes daddy kind of thing, right? Where it's like, oh, I'll tell you if you died good or if you were just an idiot simp, you know what I mean? Like it's very like, okay, is this going on OnlyFans? Or but anyway, so it's just a weird like Twitter thing that they've done. There's been a lot of promotion around this game. There's billboards all over the place. Apparently it's Blizzard's fastest selling game ever, which sounds absolutely insane to me when they have had expansion packs for MMOs that have had millions of people playing them. But a great Jennifer's Body reference, a 14-year-old movie that I think wasn't even that big when it came out. Although apparently it's a cult hit. Apparently people are like, oh, it was totally misunderstood. It came out kind of ahead of its time. It's I don't know, is it like some sort of feminist revenge movie type thing? a spit on your grave kind of thing. I'm not quite sure. I should probably go watch that movie. But anyway, that's all to say. How is Diablo?
Diablo 4. So the reason I'm sorry I was late setting up for the podcast because I was trying to cram one more dungeon before. It's good.
God.
It's good. It's so the thing I'm stoked about it. Number one is I'm playing it on console. When Diablo 3 came out, I don't know, however long ago. I think it was first launched on PC, and I screwed myself because I played it on Mac at launch. So it was super it was bad. It did not run with my graphics chip or whatever the hell was going on. Even I feel like crossplay with Mac PC was buggy. It was just a really bad launch. Errors, whatever. And then finally, years later, they released it on console, and that was, for me, the definitive way to play Diablo 3. It was so chill. It was so, they made it pretty casual friendly. It was great. Drop in, drop out co-op, local co-op, whatever. So Diablo 4, I wanted to get it on console. I'm playing it on PS5. There were no, they kind of had like a advanced rollout if you got like the deluxe edition. There were no issues on that. Even launch night, I played no issues. I think one friend got dropped from a server from issues. So I'm able to do crossplay with friends on PC, on Xbox, everything. No issues. The game itself is it's ironic because it's like game filled with skeletons and blood and demons, but it's so cozy. It's just, I'm gonna drop in, do my thing. I've surfed through 3 different classes. I started as a druid. Then I shifted over to a rogue, and I've landed back on sorcerer, like the wizard, where you're just casting spells and everything, and that's my furthest. So I still am in the first act, the first area, but it feels really good to play. It's really pretty. And I'm trying to think if there's any other nuggets about it, but
yeah. So the I guess there's some games that come out and I feel like we have assumed that everyone knows about them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was weird because Diablo 3 was a game that it was so far removed from I have the boxes for Diablo 2 here. Like Diablo 3 was it 15 years after Diablo 2 or something? So there was a long period of time, and I remember there was a lot of people who were actually hadn't really played, kind of like the System Shock remake, and hadn't actually played System Shock. So what's the sort of general moment to moment of a Diablo game? How does it differ from other isometric strategy games like, I don't know, Icewind Dale or Neverwinter Nights, or what are you doing in Diablo? Is it mostly focused on the dungeons? What's the there's loads of side quests? What are you doing?
Yeah, so the gameplay loop of it, they drop you in, you're immediately doing same thing. There's town centers, pick up a few main quests, a few side quests. In the world itself, kind of like Diablo, Destiny, there's events going on, and it has I forgot the term for it, but it's you can see other players on your server, on your world playing, so you can join, help random people do stuff. But the main thing is the game is pushing you into dungeons. And so you'll have some dungeons that there's a main story quest in there, there's a side quest, or here's just a random dungeon, but if you complete it, you'll get loot, you'll get a little permanent bonus to your game. And every dungeon seems like it takes maybe 10-15 minutes. They aren't too heavy.
Oh, cool.
I think the big main story dungeons might be longer. I know.
Yeah,
I remember
you're
playing
still
Diablo 3
early, right? How far are you?
Yeah, so I think maybe with per character, I think my deepest character run is maybe 3 hours. And so the one thing that's still kind of annoying, I like World of Warcraft because every time you pick a new character, new class, you have different starting zones. Diablo, you're still in the same spot every single time. But that also means that by the third time, I'm running through it much faster and really gelling with it. The thing that I really like about Diablo 4 is the class customization seems very deep, seems very advanced. So you start and you have your basic just strike something, but they immediately encourage you, go into your ability tree. So from the very beginning, you can pick 5 different spells, and that's the only spell you have until you level up. And the progression is pretty fast early on. And the skill tree pushes you, so you basically have 5 or 6 different main commands you're doing. And the game is very forgiving at letting you reset your skill trees. And okay, let's try something else. So I'm finding out by experimentation works really, really well. And again, I probably build my druid wrong. I fixed my rogue. And by the sorcerer, I'm oh, this works really well. Almost am I cheating? Seems like it's going great. And then it seems like every time on both the 3 characters, first 10 levels, no issue. By level 10 is it feels like the game's first test. And then I'll die in a boss. I'll check okay, can I retool my skill trees? Oh, this works a little bit better. Go and destroy the boss. And it feels like every 5 or 10 levels, when all of a sudden something seems off, I'll retool my gear and do everything. And it feels like it works. And then same thing, when you play with friends, you get XP boosts, and it seems like it gels a little faster. Yeah, so it seems pretty groovy and easy to play. I'm playing on World Tier 2. So when you start the game,
yes.
it'd be like
The
normal or
difficulty,
like
right?
slightly more difficult. And I'm doing that, and it hasn't been an issue. And I think I've talked to a few other friends who've been playing on a World Tier 2. And it's funny, when I started playing with the Sorcerer, the third class I picked, I started playing with a friend, and it seemed so easy, and I thought we were on World Tier 1, but we were on World Tier 2. So, yeah, but eventually you can push up to level 3. I'm not hardcore with these. I never care about, advancing past, like, the main game. You can always kind of, like, bump up the difficulty. I'll play, beat a class, max it out, maybe move on to the next one. But, yeah, I never mess with other games like Path of Exile or other
Right.
hardcore ARPGs. But for me, it seems casual friendly. If you want to get hardcore with it, you can really go nuts with the
Yeah.
class customization. I'm sure there's guides online or what's the most broken class. I also don't mess with hardcore mode. But yeah, so for me, it's kind of hitting that perfect spot. I've been usually playing it at the end of night to chill down, because you can pop it open, play
funny.
for 10 minutes or 2 hours. So I really like it.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
In my head, it's not that game, but I guess it's been so long since I've played one of these
Yes.
games. I was at the Blizzard Worldwide Invitational in Paris when they announced Diablo 3, and like the pop was like incredible. And me and my buddy Dennis, who Noclip folks will know, went to that event and had an absolute blast at it. It was a good time, but yeah, it's been a long time since I've done it. So you've actually made me more interested in it, because I didn't realize it. Not that I want to play this like chill game, but I know that like
Yeah.
at the end of a long work day, when I've also like been hanging out with my kid and put her to bed, the idea of like jumping into like a hardcore ARPG is not really on the docket.
Yeah.
So that's cool. All right, Diablo 4. We'll check in on you with your continuing exploits in that world, because it is one of those games you kind of play for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's really strange there's so many games coming out this close to Summer Games Fest, I guess now. E3 is dead. Long live E3. Jeff Keighley now, the new king of Summer Games. Summer Games Fest 2022, stretching into its second year. So there's going to be a lot of news. There's going to be a lot of announcements, all that sort of stuff. I think the Guerrilla Collective stream was on today. There's actually Brad Lynch, who is a Giant Bomb community member. For years, he has been publishing this super handy calendar guide for when everything is on. If you go to tinyurl.com/not E3times, that's NOTE3TIMES, you'll get access to. It's basically a Google Doc spreadsheet which will tell you the times in multiple time zones and everything of when everything is. Just a brief overview of all of this sort of stuff. We've already had the PlayStation Showcase, which was on May 24th. The Guerrilla Collective stream, I think, was on earlier today. That's the one run by Justin Hayward and the Mix people, where they basically show off a bunch of indie games. Summer Games Fest itself, its stream is on Thursday, and so is the Devolver Direct. So that'll both be on yesterday by the time this podcast goes up. This podcast goes up on a Friday. Then Saturday, June 10th, and take into account that this may be June 11th if you live in certain parts of the world. It might be later in the day. But Saturday local time, the Wholesome Direct is on, and then the Future Game Show, which is the I think was previously the PC Gaming Show is different. Future Game Show is actually a different thing, so I don't know what the fuck that is. Then the Xbox and Starfield, which is such a weird name for a thing, is on Sunday, and so is the PC Gaming Show, which is I assume Day 9 is hosting it again. It's a pretty long stream. They show off a lot of games on that one. Then on Monday, June 12th, is Ubisoft Forward and the Capcom Showcase, and then Xbox Extended, which is presumably the stuff that they had to pull out of the Xbox stream to cram Starfield in. The Xbox Extended stuff is on June 13th, which is the Tuesday. It looks like is there not times yet for Nintendo, EA Play, Square Enix, and Limited Run? That seems insane that they don't have those times yet. I don't know what the deal is when that Nintendo Direct, or maybe there isn't a Nintendo Direct. I'm going to Google it now. Will there be a June? So we don't know. It could be next month. Okay, so maybe they're not doing them. Maybe there is no Nintendo, EA, Square Enix, and Limited Run this year. I don't know. But right now on that calendar, there's a big question mark on them. So that I assume a week out from the showcases, they would have had a date. So I guess those aren't happening. So Lots of stuff happening in the world of video games for the next week. We'll have some of our thoughts on it next week once the dust has settled. But yeah, I'm excited to sit back and be a consumer of this stuff. Frank, you're going to head to the... You're going to the Mix, is it?
Yeah.
The Guerrilla Collective kind of associated thing?
Yeah, the Mix up in LA. It's indie game showcase. There's a handful of games I'm already interested to check out. I have some friends going up there too, so yeah, I'm interested in seeing it out. Like, it's funny reviewing the games listed at the Mix. It seems like there's even more indie games here than would be at a PAX convention. Like, it's very concentrated.
Right.
There's a lot, so I'm interested to see what's there. There's also a lot of games I've already seen at these events, so I'm kind of interested to see what updates there are. And I don't know, it's interesting getting more and more familiar with like the current scene, the new wave of all these games coming out. Because like the one thing that's very overwhelming with like E3 times or just keeping up with any marketing is like there is too much information that it almost feels easier for me to just like ignore it and just focus on my backlog because it's overload. But
it is.
yeah, I'm eager to see what's out there.
Yeah, because it used to just be like Microsoft, Nintendo, Sony, and then kind of whatever the game websites saw on the show floor, whereas it is so broad. In a way, it has become sort of like white noise a bit, where it's really hard to lift out, hear the signal from the noise. We'll talk about it a little bit later, but we've had a lot of ideas for Crew, and we've sort of singled in on a couple of things, and one of them is us sort of like spending the time to play a bunch of indie games and then really recommending certain indie games by doing those little let's plays, clip looks as we were calling them on Noclip Crew. And it seems like it's kind of more necessary than ever because there is so many. So thanks for heading to that. The Mix is the Media Indie Exchange. It was originally set up, I think the first ones were in San Francisco. Justin Woodward, who is a game dev himself, his studio made like the Jay and Silent Bob game that's coming out and a bunch of other stuff. Justin's cool. He lives in Emeryville, friend of Noclips, friend of Alex Austin as well, we're making Stunt Derby with. And all those dudes. He set it up basically as a way to get the media to play indie games. So it was literally Media Indie Exchange. Media turns up, here's all the indie games, go play them. So yeah, it's a fun thing, and he's been running it now for a while. It must be, and it's like when I was working at GameSpot, it was still running. So that was like 7 or 8 years ago. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So looking forward to it.
That seems like a very cool and necessary thing to exist because it's so hard, especially imagine you're an indie game developer and you're sending a cold call email to someone who gets hundreds of emails about video games a day, and you're like, hey, so I'm making a game. It's like, it's a strategy RPG. They're like, I feel like instantly that person's brain will probably go like, oh yeah, I get like a bajillion of these a day. I've seen I've seen 70 strategy RPGs today, and it's just like, like you said, it's there's so much out there that it's hard to parse what's personally interesting to you and what's kind of like unique, what's standing out. That's why I feel like it sucks because it feels like more marketing than game dev, but that's why capsule images on Steam and promotional images and like banners are so essential. I mean, it's kind of what we deal with as people who put out
thumbnails
YouTube videos with thumbnails. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's just,
that's the base.
I mean, it seems like it's unrelated, but over time I've had to like adjust my brain to realizing that that's just part and parcel of putting out any piece of art, is that you have to figure out how to get people interested, but get them in the door.
Yeah, 100%. Names of games, everything is all tied to that. And, you can choose to ignore it if you want, but you don't necessarily put yourself in the best situation. We actually showed Stunt Derby off or Alex did at the Mix. Was it a Mix? I think it might have been a Mix at LA Comic-Con. And the Mix usually has like here's the media part, and then there has a public part. So I think that was all public maybe. But I have the banner. Alex dropped it off when he was here last week. I have our like Stunt Derby at the Mix, like little cardboard cutout that was on the table. Which is pretty cool. Myself and Alex are actually going to do a podcast, a Patreon exclusive podcast, all about the past year, because it has been a year now of working on Stunt Derby. We're putting out a demo on Steam as part of their Next Fest stuff the week after next. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We're going to have a video up on Noclip as well, the main channel, just like basically telling people, go play the game. Go play the game. Let us know what you think. Like that's the whole thing. Send us your little video reviews. Maybe we'll stick it in a documentary one day. Let's talk about some older games, I guess. Jeremy, you completed Earthbound. This is one of the most like beloved video games ever, I feel like, or it has like such a mystique and mythos around it. Perhaps, I don't know why. Why is it? Why do people really care about this game? These games, rather, the mother games.
Yeah. So for the uninitiated, Earthbound, as it's known in the United States, is Mother 2. It is the middle of the 3 Mother games, a franchise or series headed by Shigesato Itoi. There's a lot of reasons that the Mother games are so popular. One of them, I feel like the one that is most talked about is the fact that they're JRPGs that are kind of hardcore, but they're not about dragons. They're not like, they're kind of the antithesis of Dragon Quest. They're about a small town, kind of like Americana themed, like you're fighting evil rambling mushrooms and skate punks at the arcade and stuff instead of knights and dragons and goblins and troglodytes and all that shit. I don't know. There's just something about them that's like, they're very sincere and they're very authentic games, but they're not like, I was thinking about this while I was playing Earthbound. I feel like when people think back about Earthbound, they think about it as one of those kind of wholesome games. Like it's a game that's like, oh, it's about like, you start out and it's about like loving your mom and, you know, going out and leaving home for the first time and like shedding a tear because you gotta like, yeah, exactly. But they are wholesome and authentic at times, but they're also incredibly dark. Like something I learned just yesterday, and a trigger warning, skip ahead 60 seconds if you're very, very sensitive to hearing about horrible things.
Oh God, that's way too vague. Okay, let's do it.
The final boss of Earthbound, which I will not talk about or spoil, I didn't know this till yesterday. The idea for the final boss was inspired by Shigesato Itoi. As a young boy, accidentally walked into the wrong movie theater.
Oh, funny.
And saw a scene of sexual assault, and it scarred him as a child.
God.
And so he took that traumatic childhood experience and wrapped it into the kind of aesthetics and themes of the final boss.
Now I want to know what the fucking final boss was. I'll Google it.
It won't immediately scan as related to that. I mean, it's, again, this is something I've played this game through twice, and I didn't know that until yesterday.
Oh, God.
But I feel like that kind of for me that kind of summed up the fact that it's like, this is a quote unquote wholesome game, but I feel like that the idea of a wholesome game has become synonymous with a game that does not kind of like push you into psychologically dark waters. And I feel like Earthbound is not that. Earthbound is like I there was a moment when I was playing Earthbound where, like, just because of some personal stuff that's going on in my life, there was like a little bit of writing that popped up, and it was just one line, and it just instantly made me cry. Like, it just instantly gut punched me so hard. And I feel like that's kind of that's kind of the unique like tone that Earthbound strikes. Is it's very sincere and heartfelt, but it never feels like it's coddling the player. And especially there's something about certain times games writing will feel like you're at a theme park and everyone is the employees at the theme park. And or like sometimes the tone feels like it's your first day on the job at a corporate office, and everyone's like, "Hey, I'm like speaking with an upwards intonation over here. This is like Susie. She works in HR." And I feel like that's like the tone of some games writing, because it feels like theme parky, and they're kind of trying to cater to the player or coddle the player. And Earthbound constantly feels like it's like, what are you shitty little kids doing here? Like, what are you doing? I get out of my face. It's like, I don't want you around. And people are being like weird and mean to you and alienating you. So yeah, I don't know, like tonally there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with Earthbound. Mechanically, there's also a lot of interesting stuff. Shigesato Itoi was a writer and copywriter and artist, not a game designer, before he did the series. So I feel like they kind of feel like outsider art in terms of their game design a little bit. Enemies will just walk around the town, so there's not that kind of classic RPG distinction of here's the town where the shops are and that's safe, and then you wander out into the dangerous world. Like, you'll leave the pizza shop after buying a pizza, and a skate punk will run up and bash your skull in with a skateboard. So that's kind of cool. And then the other mechanical thing that I thought was really interesting is it has this rolling HP meter mechanic, which is if a character takes enough damage that they will die from that damage, it'll say so-and-so took mortal damage, and the screen will shake a bunch and make a horrible noise. But the health meters are like the odometer on a car. They're like the little manual spinny kind of like wheels with numbers on them. And so the wheels will start spinning super fast. And so you know that character is going to die as their number trickles down. But if you can kill the enemies before that character dies, you save them essentially. Cool. which is a huge deal because if a character dies, you have to go all the way back to a hospital to revive them, which can be like, I mean, this game is sort of punishing sometimes. There's a status ailment that reverses your controls occasionally, and you have to go all the way back to a hospital to get it.
So it's
kind
of like the first time you play this game and you run into these things, it's like, God damn it. But at least like on subsequent playthroughs, maybe you can avoid it a little bit, or you're even more sensitive to like, oh, I really don't want to get somebody killed. It's going to take me forever to get back to the hospital.
Let's just say this. This is my second time playing Earthbound, and I definitely used the turbo button on my emulator a little bit when I got the mushroom debuff, because I was like, this is it's cool and fun to have.
It's a mushroom.
Yeah, it's the Ramblin' Evil Mushroom casts a stat debuff where he sprinkles like weird spores on you, and Ness gets a little mushroom on his head, and it reverses your controls half of the time, which is actually very hard
Magic
to play
mushrooms.
With. But yeah, there's a lot of just like little kind of like systemic subversions like that. I've also been playing Mother 3, and something I came across last night
did not come out in the US.
It did not come out in the US. It came out so it was kind of stuck in development hell for a while. So there was a Earthbound 64 announced when I was a kid, and there's promo images, there's trailers out there for it. And that is a kind of like low poly 3D looking, version of Mother 3 essentially that never came out. And eventually the project kind of got scrapped and reborn as Mother 3, which has a pixel art style more similar to Earthbound.
But it's not Mother 3 is not 3D. Okay.
No, it's pixel art.
So it's a different.
So they scrapped the 3D version of it, essentially. But you can see similar character designs from the Earthbound 64 stuff in Mother 3. Like there's like a cowboy dude named Flint, and you can kind of see a early version of him in
Fleecewood.
Yeah.
Is this
something like that? Yeah, it's gotta be. But in Mother 3, there was a nice I won't spoil anything, but just a nice little mechanical kind of like set. I really like when RPGs do systems for storytelling. Like when we had Spencer Crittenden on the podcast, I was talking to him about in a classic RPG, you'll have a character jump into the battle who's super powerful, and they'll swing their sword and do like 9,999 damage, and it's the game using the systems to tell the story. Instead of saying this guy is so powerful, they show him in a battle scenario being powerful, and you're like, oh my god, dude, like I've only ever done 600 damage.
Like
that's
show
insane.
don't tell in movie making,
Yeah, exactly. So I really like stuff like that. So in Mother 3, there's a moment where your character, one of the characters you play as, is in a party with a character who's kind of like your captor, like your master. And you're walking around and you find an item, and at this point in the game, you've picked up 100 items like normal, just out of boxes around the world. So it says you got the whatever item, and instantly it starts a little bespoke cutscene where the character who's kind of your master is like, you idiot, like you think that is yours? Like give me that. And he takes it, and there's a bespoke animation where he takes the thing from you and eats it, like a little custom animation. And then another UI pop up that says you lost the whatever item. And I just love little things like that. I feel like, I don't know, the Mother games use very traditional RPG systems in very non-traditional ways like that. And yeah, there's just something about them that they feel like they're video games inspired by things that are not video games, and that's kind of what I love about them.
Love to see it. We're gonna maybe give it a whirl in a new video series over on Crew. A new take on something we've been doing, where we've been playing old video games and sort of seeing if they're still up to snuff in 2023. I did a couple with Black and White and Wipeout and stuff, and we've been enjoying doing them. So we're gonna do that, but maybe add a bit more editing, a bit more script writing, and that type of stuff to the front of them, and formalize them a little bit. So I think, are you gonna do one on Earthbound? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I started. That's actually how I came across the Tohir fun fact, quote unquote fun, earlier. Is that I started doing some research for that yesterday and getting prepared. Yeah, did you know that Toby Fox, the creator of Undertale, had a meeting with Shigesato Itoi where they talked about like the Mother series and Undertale, and Itoi famously announced when they did Mother 3 that it would be the last game in the Mother series. And so when he met with Toby Fox, according to the whatever articles I've read about this, Toby Fox said that he would be willing to help out on any future Mother games if they existed. And Shigesato Itoi was like, we're not going to make more of them, but I kind of feel like Undertale is sort of like Mother 4.
That's
amazing. Dude, Toby Fox made like Earthbound ROM hacks as a child. Can you imagine if you like the game that you based your childhood creative output around? You then meet the creator someday, and he's like, "Yeah, you're basically like me." but like version 2, I don't know.
Cool.
That story blew my mind.
It was like when the
That's
Black
so
Mesa
cool.
guys went to Valve, and they were apparently loads of people have played it, and we're like, oh my god, it's amazing. Or like one of the level designers from the original Half-Life was like, oh, when I go back to reference Half-Life stuff, I go back and play Black Mesa now instead. You know, that type of thing.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, Undertale is like it's hard to compare Undertale to Earthbound because they came out so far apart, and the tools available to the people who made them were so different, and also just like 20 years of game design had happened.
One's the original, right? Like,
yeah, for sure. But in a vacuum, if you play Earthbound and Undertale, I truly feel like they are games that are sort of on par with one another. I think Undertale is like is as much love as it gets. I think it deserves every bit of it. I think it's a kind of a masterpiece.
How long did it take for you to complete Mother 2 Earthbound?
It's so hard to say.
5 hours, 40 hours.
Probably like 20 something.
Cool. Long, but not crazy long.
High teens or like to mid 20s. Yeah. Long but not crazy. Like I said, I played it on an emulator, so if there was a moment where I was getting my head bashed in on the same part over and over and over, I did not shy away from using the turbo button. Yeah, I do feel like that they're playing on an emulator. There is always the temptation of using save states, and I feel like that is it's a hard temptation to steer away from when a game is kicking your ass.
That shit, man.
Yeah, you're like, do I really want to spend 20 minutes walking back there? I did make that save
I've been playing
state.
Disco Elysium, and there's been a couple of rolls where I've been like, you know what, this isn't like important to the mission or to the story, but I really want to see what happens here. So I'll just quick save and roll the dice a few times. It'll eventually hit green.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I was thinking a lot about that with the design of Diablo 4 as well, because I probably won't play Diablo 4, but I was curious about kind of how the design has been innovated on since Diablo 2, which is one of my favorite games.
Did you play 3?
Diablo 3, I think, I did play 3, and I thought it was, fun. I played it co-op with somebody and had a good time with it. But one of the big design changes from 2 to 3 was the introduction of respecking, which they introduced into the lead designer on 3, Jay Wilson, I believe introduced it into Diablo 2 like 9 years. They patched it in like 9 years after the game came out. And this is my gaming like paleo. We should have a segment on this podcast where I'm the gaming paleo conservative. This is my old man yells at clouds segment. I feel like having freely available respecs in Diablo games is kind of removing some of the interesting hardcore RPG friction that I like about those games. Because, and I understand people have like lives, and everyone can't like constantly be devoting 100 hours to starting a new druid because they messed up their druid. But I do feel like there's something that's lost.
I think
there,
you should be able to respec, but you have to like do the hardest fucking mission to do it. Like you have to like go into the bowels of hell and kill Satan to be reborn again as somebody else. That's
there has to be friction. Yeah, because I feel I've been thinking a lot about that because it's hard to argue against quality of life features. I think you have to really, if you're gonna say this game should be inconvenient to play, I really think you should have a good reason for saying it. And I think that the thing that I've come to is that when you have that extra friction for the player to respec, I think what it does is it adds a lot of gravity to the decision-making process. Like when I played Diablo 2 originally, if you like sneezed and accidentally clicked like bone armor as a necromancer, you're stuck with bone armor unless you make a new character forever. And I think that added, like when I would level up, I feel like my hand would quiver over the mouse as I like selected my new stats and stuff. And I think I don't know. I just think that it's an important design consideration.
Well, let's ask the question.
Game design.
So, Frank, can you respec? Because I've Googled it and it looks like you can. You don't even have to go to the crone in the encampment.
Yeah.
You just literally open a menu in the skills box.
Yep. No. Yeah. So like I've died on a boss and I'm like, oh, I don't like this. Let me do something that like changes my stats, and like it takes maybe 1% of your gold or something like. So it's very inconsequential. Yeah.
Which is fine. I totally understand that. Like, it seems like to me, Diablo 4 is trying to make Diablo's formula appeal to a wider audience. Especially. Yeah, I was gonna say, especially with like the mass marketing campaign they did through KFC and stuff. Like, they're clearly trying to sell this game to a bajillion
Activision does
people.
not make niche games and Blizzard does not anymore. Every game is now for millions of people, or it's for nobody.
Yeah, which is fine.
I mean,
There's
I don't
nothing
think it's
wrong with
fucking
that.
sucks, and I think I think
yeah.
it is the problem with basically any of these long running RPGs. The same thing happened to Fallout, you could argue, and then Fallout 1 is like weird and esoteric, and that's why people like it, and 2 had its own set of weirdnesses and whatnot. But then by the time we got 2, and I like Fallout 4. But also, by the time we got to Fallout 4, they had to make a Fallout that appealed to the 12 different ways people now want to play Fallout. You know what I mean? Like building and fucking online or I guess that doesn't count for 4, but like, you know, exploration and story and combat and shooting and melee. You know what I mean? And then they end up becoming like, so that's where I see the respec thing, where people are just going to ask for it. Not everyone's going to ask for it, but like more people are going to be wanting it for quality of life reasons than thoughtfully critiquing why not to have it like you just did. You know?
Yeah, I think, but to me, I feel like game designers sometimes. I feel like it's the same thing with any, like with filmmakers too. I feel like sometimes the creative person behind a creative work, especially interactive media, needs to be like the hard ass parent sometimes. And when your kids are in the backseat and they're like, "We want McDonald's, we want ice cream," you need to be like, "No. We have broccoli at home, and I don't want you to have rickets, and I don't want you to be fat. So, like, we're going to have broccoli for dinner, and we'll have ice cream sometimes, but, like, we can't have ice cream every single day,
But
dude.
imagine trying to do that in a company with, like, tens, like, just so many stakeholders up and down that you so...
They're like, the people are begging for ice cream.
Yeah.
They're throwing money
It's
at ice
easier
cream.
to go with
Just
the
give them
flow.
ice cream.
Like, especially when you're working with people who don't know what the fuck they're doing. Like, that's my biggest delight for not having to work in a larger organization anymore, especially with like managers who don't know what the fuck they're doing, is that like it's way easier just to go with the tide if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. If you have an idea that you think goes against the tide, it's really difficult because you have to convince everyone else in the room who thinks, "Oh, I don't know, but that seems like maybe it's not." It's like an uphill struggle to just do the thing that you kind of, maybe because you have a better insight into this, you're pretty sure is going to be fine. And if it's not, you can just reverse it anyway. So yeah, it's a shame. I'm with you on that. I think people, I don't know. Let us know what you think in the comments below, people.
I am curious what people think. Yeah, the last thing I'll say about it is that I think that sometimes the solution is to give both options, to give to have a sort of hardcore mode.
It probably
or to
is a
have,
hardcore mode, right?
And like difficulty sliders and things like that. But the more I think about it, I do think that there is something about that it's kind of like the save state button in an emulator, where if I'm on a hike and the entire hike there's a button where it's like, do you want to just like skip to the end, dude? You want to just see like the nice view at the end? I feel like even if I don't hit the button, having the temptation of the button alters
100%.
the experience of going up the dusty trail.
Yeah, I agree. Let us know what you think in the comments. We got to move on because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Dave the Diver, I'm going to mention briefly. I've not played a lot of it. I've played maybe 3-4 hours of it. So this is a game that came out in early access in October of last year. It has 11,000 overwhelmingly reviews on Steam. It is marked as overwhelmingly positive. It's $20. I have been enjoying it, although I will say I have found the start of it a bit frustrating because it's a little too fucking heavy on the narrative for my personal tastes. But basically it is a game that is split into two different sort of modes. The first is you are a pleasantly rotund gentleman called Dave who goes diving under the water. He's only got a certain amount of oxygen, and you have to go down there and basically shoot harpoon fish, so collecting fish, maybe some treasure, maybe some other bits and bobs. You got these little side quests, so other things you can do, collect stuff for archaeologists or whatever. And then, you know, when you're down there, if you go deeper and deeper, maybe you'll find some more oxygen down there. So you can, you know, and then there's the risk reward of like the fucking Sonic water level of how do you get out of here without enough oxygen and all that sort of stuff. So you spend like the morning and the afternoon doing dives, collecting fish and all that. And then in the evening part of the game, it's just split into 3 sections. You run a sushi restaurant and you use the fish that you caught to do a sort of almost sort of like a tapper, you know, beer tapper game, like tapper style, like game where you are pouring green tea for people and delivering their sushi to them from the chef and all that based on the stuff that you've put on the menu that you caught earlier that day. So it's a really fun loop. I like the underwater stuff a lot. I didn't think I'd like the sushi part of it that much, but actually it's kind of like an interesting little mode switch, like sort of pace break from the other stuff. I think it might get a bit rote if you were just doing that all the time. The easy comparison for me in my head is Dredge, because it's another water-based fishing game, but you're also doing a lot of like quests. You're going out and catching specific things. It's definitely indie and has that sort of, this is 2D and pixel arty and stuff like that. The one thing that's annoying me a little bit is that what I liked about Dredge is they're so light on the narrative. They're just like, go catch the weird fish. Like, we don't have to like base everything in this world on some like, we don't have to justify it within the narrative of the world. But the problem I had a bit with Dave the Diver, and I think it's easing off a bit now that I've played a lot of it, is that it was constantly serving up like, oh, now you're going to have an archaeologist going to turn up and tell you how to like, what you have to do to collect these archaeological things. Where it's like, if I was under the water and I saw some fucking treasure, I would know that was treasure and I would probably collect it. I don't need to have this conversation with, dialogue trees, which I don't. I'm just, yep, next. Or like, to upgrade your gun, it goes into this whole, there's a guy who upgrades the guns and there's a cutscene where he upgrades the gun. It's like, I don't fucking care. Just let me upgrade I want to play your video game. So I don't know. Maybe I was playing it like impatiently, or maybe, it's just I personally don't care about that sort of like narrative trimming. When all that stuff got out of the way, when I was just playing the actual game part of the game, I'm really, really enjoying it. And I can tell, I know people who have got like 10 dozen hours plus in this game and have played the shit out of it. So I think it's probably gonna get its hooks in. Pause for
Fishing.
clapping. No? Okay. Thank you.
Nice job. That was a beautiful
clap.
joke. Please laugh.
What was that? Those Jeb Bush, was it? I said that?
Yeah.
Please clap. So I'm into it. It's an interesting thing. Playing on Steam Deck works really well.
It's cool. I can't believe I hadn't heard of this game until you mentioned it to me yesterday.
I couldn't believe it that I hadn't heard of it, and somebody mentioned it to me, and I was like, this has like almost 12,000. What? Like, how this keeps happening, Jeremy? This like these.
Did these devs make another game that I would know, or
they're
is
called
this their
Mint Rocket? They have made other games, but I have not played any of them. They have a game.
Mint Rocket is a good name.
Mint Rocket is. I think it's, well, actually, if I click on it, it brings me to the Nexon page, so I take that back. I actually don't know if Mint Rocket have made anything before.
Okay, I'm looking them up.
Mint Rocket. It's a good name. I like it. Delicious.
It's refreshing.
It's a division of Nexon
Delicious
Korea,
Mint Rocket.
it says.
Okay.
So, I don't know. Maybe it's like a little indie label that Nexon are putting out. It's good shit. It's good shit. Two little weird little games.
Mint Rocket, you got a typo on your website here. I'm just letting you know. If Mint Rocket, if you're listening,
What's the typo?
Project Nakwan has an extra C in the middle of the word project. Just letting you know. Just trying to help out, do a little copywriting here. Project.
What I'm talking about, I don't know, things. Shout out to all our Battle Pass holders who I forgot to mention at the start. James Brown, Jason Jury, Mark Rojas, Ryan Cobb, Tucker Morgan, Crimson Cyclist, maybe because they're covered in blood. Sven Huster, Aaron L. White, Tim Robinson, Forrest Pruitt, Andy Fegan, Eric Hamilton Schneider, Cameron Ladd. See, now I can see you've got the bullet in the chamber whenever I mention Eric Hamilton Schneider. He's like your,
I get too
he's
excited.
Like your setup. George Sakotis, Jacob Godserve, and Tohir Tilyaev. Check out Tohir's YouTube channel. He talks a lot about creators. It's good shit. Not enough people watch his videos. Check out Tohir's videos. He's very charismatic. Good old Tohir Tilyaev. He never made it to that New York. Remember we did the meetup in New York and he couldn't make it. I was really bummed. It was going to be a good time. We had a fun meetup then. Have to do some more meetups in the summertime. We've got some filming happening in some places. We can't really talk about it quite yet. A lot of projects going on. A lot of weird little stuff. Non-game, non-studio stuff. We're getting a bit freaky here on Noclip.
A little dirty.
Speaking of dirt, tell me about modern controls in Street Fighter 6, Frank. Have you done it?
God.
Have you gone? Have you crossed the Rubicon to the world of modern controls, or are you still quarter circling like an old pro?
Yeah, no, the one thing that sucks about Street Fighter 6 is when you start the World Tour mode, it forces you into the modern controls. You have to wait until Chapter 2 to unlock the classic controls. But then you're good. You never have to go back.
Explain the controls to the folks at home.
So with Street Fighter 6, there's modern controls, which almost like Smash Brothers. It kind of simplifies it where it's like there's like a punch, a kick, and then a button you press and it just does the move for you. I guess it's similar to like assist mode in the old Marvel vs. Capcom games. but it's so like gross to me and so like alien. Like
if you're Ryu, you just go up and Y, and he does like the fucking. I always forget that whatever that thing is. The fucking that thing. And if you go like to the towards, he does the kick, and if you do like back, he does the. It's like so you just back and Y, and he does a fireball. It's just like easy peasy lemon squeeze.
And it's so alien because it's on by default. So I like was so hyped for the launch day. I had my arcade stick plugged in. I started doing it. And I'm like, what the hell
You've
is
been doing like calisthenics on your broken arm all week trying to get it working.
Yeah, and but yeah, you can switch it back. But yeah, Street Fighter 6 is amazing. It is. I was burned by Street Fighter 5's launch. It came out like it just wasn't all there. Street Fighter 6 has so many modes. It's unbelievable. There's World Tour, there is the ranked mode, but the real magic is in the player hub mode or whatever, the online arcade mode. It's basically like VR chat or Second Life. You can our Phantasy Star Online, you can pick a server. So like the character you make in the World Tour mode is the same character that can be your online avatar. So you join a server and it's just a big arcade lobby and you can go up
full
to arcade cabinets. Yes, so you can see everyone's messed up avatars.
Do you want to see
my
one? Here's Here's
that
because you get a little driver's license. Here's Chauncey.
Oh my God!
Beautiful.
She's got.
Beautiful.
For those not watching the YouTube version, they have beautiful orange parted hair, I'd say, and almost it looks like a bison's tail. I think I picked a guy. I forget. A bison's tail as like hair coming down both sides. So that's Chauncey.
That looks like if Harley Quinn was like one of the mobsters from Looney Tunes back in the day.
If Harley Quinn took a lot of like human growth hormones. You know what I mean? But didn't get the bald Dana White head. You know, but we took a bunch of HGH or something. That's Chauncey. Beautiful Chauncey. But yes, anyway, that's what my experience of that hub world is. Just everyone's made a freak, which is great.
Yeah. There's also people who are doing like basically character cosplay. Like I went to a server and then there was a Kratos and then Gus Fring from Breaking Bad, and it's just like this is great. You can go in the center of the room and you can just do avatar battles, so you can fight your custom characters, which is ridiculous. Also, one thing that's amazing in World Tour in this is there's also just old school arcade cabinets, so you can play Street Fighter 2 in Final Fight.
Oh, I did not notice that.
Yeah. And they just straight up put Final Fight and Street Fighter, and then Arcade teased or Capcom teased that they're going to be rotating the games in that cabinet in that area. So the game is overloaded with like Capcom fan service. Even when you go to like your custom, you build your profile card, you can select like what kind of Capcom game fan you are, and you can select stuff from like Darkstalkers. Power Stone is mentioned. The fact that Capcom is even mentioning Power Stone is like, wait, what? Teasing everyone. And the World Tour mode is amazing because like one of my all-time favorite games beyond Street Fighter is just the original Final Fight. This game, World Tour mode, basically feels like they made a new Final Fight.
Really?
You're just walking down, because like
I have to play. There's so many parts of this game that I've not touched because even when you're downloading it at the start, they're like, "You download the base game. Do you want to download these other two modes?" And I'm like, "What? What do you mean?" Because they were just weirdly named modes that didn't like explain what the fuck they were. So wait, World Tour mode why is it like Final Fight?
So World Tour mode, they basically made a goofy Yakuza. Like where it's just you're your character, and it has a thing where it's like Luke is your training you, and you have your driver's license or whatever, and you go around and there's different masters. So the first one is Luke, the second one is Chun-Li, the third is like Marissa, the giant like wrestler.
Okay.
And when you go into a master, you learn their moveset, so you can customize your fighter and mix up kind of like skill trees in Diablo. You can change which moves you want to use.
Fighter 6 guy?
Yes. So you can you can respec. There is a skill tree in the Street Fighter World Tour mode, so you can like it's such a dense mode within this thing. Yeah, it's very Yakuza, and so like you can have different fighting styles. You level up your masters, so like Persona or Elements. You can grind up your relationship. You can give gifts. So you can give gifts to Chun-Li. So Chun-Li likes you more. You're giving gifts to your master. It is like it is insane. And the antagonists are the Mad Gear Gang from Final Fight. And there are Final Fight NPCs like people dressed like Poison. People like the like little fire throwing dudes. So a lot of the original like Final Fight type characters are all in this Metro City like. There's a giant statue of Hagar.
Oh, really?
So it's like, whoa, this is amazing, and it's just so silly. Like the bad guys all wear cardboard boxes on their heads. Like that's how you know who the bad guys are. You can walk up and just fight police officers. You all of a sudden are like, all right, cool, you
Holy
did enough
shit.
here. Now go fly to Italy, and you go to fly to Italy, and you
Beat up
there's
Italian police officers there.
Yeah. So it's just like this is amazing. It's so silly, and there's cutscenes with your created character in there, and like just walking around the streets, it's like it's just filled with like little Capcom Easter eggs, and it is really amazing how dense this game is. And then even like ranked mode, I was so proud again with my fractured elbow. Now I'm in like week 3 or 4. I feel like better, but I still was injured, and I still got gold rank.
Oh, nice.
In ranked mode.
Frank
So I'm
Allen.
very I'm
Representing
and there's
Noclip
still
well.
there's still 2 higher tiers. There's platinum and diamond, but the fact that I'm gold, I feel very confident
Nice.
in. And I've been playing ranked matches, and like every time I lose, I still learn. So I grinded like 8 hours yesterday, just going through it. And
Am I right in saying that they've also managed to keep the rank per character in this one?
Yes.
So that was
So-
that was a massive deal because people were basically
Yeah.
disincentivized to playing with any other character because it would totally mess up their rank.
Yeah. So when you pick any character, you do 10 kind of trial matches.
Oh, cool.
And it's like, okay, so they're gonna try to guess who you're fighting against, and so they kind of like ping pong you around different ranks, and then by the time you finish those 10 matches, they give you a rank, and it's pretty accurate. I was pretty impressed. Like with Guile, when I was doing my ranking, I got 5 ranked wins in a row, and they threw me against platinum players, and I got destroyed. And it's like, okay, so I landed in gold, and then like even at like 3 a.m. last night, I did one more ranked match, and it was like it pulled me against another gold player, and like, oh, we're pretty evenly matched. Like it's impressive. And then I logged on Twitch, and I saw Daigo, like one of the all-time greats. He was playing against he's diamond, playing against other diamond players, and it's so surreal to see like master level Street Fighter players playing this new game, because just watching Daigo for like 10 minutes, I saw such uses of mechanics, and there's so many systems and things you can do in this game. There's parries, there's like this crush move you can use to break blocks, you can fuse things, and it's just like, man, it's a lot to take in, and I'm kind of learning characters piece by piece. But I'm happy I can use Guile, I can use Zangief, and there's also a lot of new characters, and people are jumping to the new characters.
Nice.
So yeah, it is really like great.
Pretty cool. Street Fighter 6, the, I believe, 29th game to get a 40 out of 40 on Famitsu. And
Oh, wow.
the second in less than a month, or the second in 2 months, because Tears of the Kingdom got one as well. I've never looked at the list.
Yeah.
Should we do the list? Let's
Of all their 40 out of
let's do it.
40s.
And obviously the
Yeah, let's do
Famitsu
it.
40 out of 40, you could say it's somewhat political. Maybe there's a celebration of Japanese games for sure in here. A celebration of Hideo Kojima as well. I feel like comes up quite a bit. Famitsu is a Japanese magazine, a video game review publication that's been around for donkey's years. I don't know when it first started, but it's basically just like very well held in regard. It is given, I believe, 29 perfect 40 out of 40s. And these are them. In 1998, we start off with a little game called The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Soul Calibur in 1999. Hilariously, I believe the 2 of those were also the first 2, or at least 2 of the early games that got 10 out of 10s on GameSpot as well. Vagrant Story in 2000. Wind Waker in 03. Nintendogs in 05. Which, considering how many copies of Nintendogs I sold when I was working in game retail, I'm like 100% Nintendogs needs to get its 40 to 40. That game was banger. It was like the most sold game on DS for a minute there. Final Fantasy 7. No, that's
No,
10,
that's Final Fantasy
12.
12.
Sorry, that's 12.
Yeah.
Which that is very
There you
surprising.
go. In 2006. 08 had a couple. Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots, and 428 Shibuya Scramble, which I have never heard of.
Me
It
neither.
is a visual novel. So there you go. 09 had a few. Dragon Quest 9, Monster Hunter Tri, Bayonetta, and new Super Mario Bros. Wii. In 2010, there was Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker, Pokemon Black and White, 2011 had Skyward Sword, Skyrim, great year for skies, and Final Fantasy 13 too.
No.
Okay. So the fucking whoever's on the Final Fantasy beat at Famitsu needs to calm the fuck down. Is what I've learned here.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of Square Enix dudes in suits who come by the Famitsu office and crack their knuckles a little bit, and they're like, "So, how you guys liking 13-2? It's pretty good, right?"
Kid Icarus Uprising brings in another 40 out of 40. That's another surprising one, I think, in 2012. So did Yakuza 5 that year. And then things get a little bit. I feel like they get a little bit stingy in the next 10 years, because that's whatever. That's like most of them, I'd say, and it's like 12 years or whatever. The next 10 years a little bit stingy. Grand Theft Auto 5 in 2013, Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain in 2015, Breath of the Wild in 2017, along with Dragon Quest 11 that year. Then Nothing in 18, Death Stranding in 2019, Ghosts of Tsushima in 2020, and then Goose Eggs 2021 and 2022 until we get to Tears of the Kingdom and Street Fighter 6. So
Wow.
So there you go.
That is a bizarre list.
There are 52 games that have gotten a 39, but we will not be reading those out. I'm going to quickly look through some of these to see which is the weirdest one.
Okay, Link to the Past is a 39, but Final Fantasy 13-2 is a perfect 40.
FIFA 12 got a 39, which was actually a pretty good year. That was maybe when they finally snatched it from Pro Evolution Soccer. Gears of War 3 got a 39 out of 40. I don't know about that one. Anyway, these fucking corrupt video game journalists.
Wait, Resident Evil 6 got a 39 out of 40 out of Famitsu.
No way.
That is Resident Evil GameCube remake also has that score, that's a crime against humanity.
I mean, you can like Revelations has. Wait, are you serious? Resident Evil 6.
Yeah. Again, the Capcom guys coming down in their suits, cracking the knuckle, dragging a few baseball bats down to the Famitsu
Resident
office.
Evil 6 is undoubtedly the worst Resident Evil game, like including all the spin-offs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it sucks.
Resident Evil 6 is total dog shit. What did it get on IGN? Oh my god, Resident Evil 6 got a 7 out of 9. I feel like we tanked it on GameSpot. Yeah, I think Kevin Van Ord
GameSpot
did
gave it 4.5 out of 10.
I think Kevin did that one.
Nice.
It was like
Good
we
job,
were
Kevin.
working there. I don't know who edited that. Yeah, Kevin Van Ord did it. Who was our reviews editor and now is a writer at Larian on Divinity and Baldur's Gate 3, I guess. Yeah, he gave it a 4 out of 5. It's one of the funniest video reviews I've ever watched. I don't know who cut that one. Do you remember?
No, I have no idea.
I wish I could go into the CMS and see who cut that review. It was very funny. The only thing anyone remembers about Resident Evil 6 is that the logo looked like a giraffe getting a blowjob.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember that?
That's the best part. That gets at least 1 or 2 Famitsu points.
Yeah. Maybe that's what all the score points went
They love
towards,
that
the graphic
shit.
design.
Yeah, they love-
They're like,
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
okay.
They love that shit. All right, that's a podcast. Which now the people on YouTube are like to time code it and see how much more podcast there is after I say that's a podcast because of all the housekeeping. The tapes. If you go to youtube.com/@NoclipArchive, you start to see some of the tapes going up there. If you go to tinyurl.com/NoclipArchive, you will also see some of the tapes going up on archive.org. I'm currently rendering. My media coder queue has 8 videos on it, which are all getting spat out. We are almost ready to do the trailer and the funding push for the tapes. We are also going to do a show kind of like best of the worst style, I kind of feel like it is, where we watch some of the tapes and kind of highlight them, because we want this collection of video game history to be not just about the putting them up on the internet, but also their like living, breathing preservation, where we're talking about them and using them and using all these a decade of video game history that we saved to sort of breathe new life into it. So keep your eye open for that. There's also going to be a 90-minute Q&A for patrons going up. I might put it up this weekend. I might wait until Games Fest is over. We'll see. I think I'll get it up today, actually. It's probably up by the time this is there. I did a Q&A and we ended up getting 30-something questions for it, so I just did them all. And so it's a 90-minute Q&A. I think we might put up a slightly truncated version, like maybe 15 minutes of it up on Noclip Crew as a taster if you're interested, but go check that out if you want. Like I said, we got a bunch of shows we're working on for Noclip Crew, and then on the main doc channel, Immortality, Vampire Survivors, and Dwarf Fortress. Vampire Survivors is the closest to being finished. I'm almost done filming with the Vampire Puppet. Immortality is going to be around 90 minutes long. It's a super great edit, Jeremy, and I'm interviewing Natalie Watson tomorrow to finish it off and doing a bit of structural work on it, and then that'll be done. And then Dwarf Fortress coming up after that, and a bunch of other things. So we are busy over here. If you would like to support all our work, fund our documentaries, this podcast, get access to bonus episodes, Discord, and loads more, head over to patreon.com/Noclip. Frank, what are you doing for the rest of your day today?
Let's see. I'm going to see if I can go to the gym for the first time in like 3 or 4 weeks,
Beautiful.
because like
All the Street Fighter 6 is getting to you, huh?
I think because even if I think I can even get on an elliptical, and even if I don't use my left wing, I think I'll be okay. But it's like if I stepped on the scale after a month of not working out, and I'm like, oh my god, okay, the arm is fixed. I'm good.
Right.
So I'm gonna be careful, but I'm like, I need to fix it. But it's also what a bad time too, because Diablo IV just came out. There's nothing more encouragement to sit on my ass than Street Fighter and Diablo, but gonna go outside for a bit. Yeah, Summer Games Fest is here. Bask in all of Jeff Keighley's glory. So we're ready.
Excited for that. Jeremy, what about you?
Oh man, I don't know. I'll probably play some more Mother 3. I'm gonna try to beat Mother 3. It's kind of fun having a sequel to Earthbound that I never played. After revisiting Earthbound, that was kind of I wanted to revisit Earthbound to prepare for Mother 3. So play a bunch of Mother 3. Think about this Earthbound video that we're doing, and kind of think about how to do it justice, and figure out how to kind of like celebrate the old, but give it a new coat of paint, and kind of like re-examine it, and just kind of try to figure out how to like look back at something that was important to me and give people interesting thoughts about it and give them something to chew on. So, fermenting.
Are you using
thoughts.
a fan translation pack or something?
Yes, there is no official Mother 3, but there is a very good fan translation.
Nice.
Essentially, it's a patch for the Mother 3 ROM.
Okay, excellent. People can Google it, I'm sure, and find that one out.
It's very good. I have not run into any like translation issues. I have friends who've played it as well and loved it.
All right, that's a podcast. Thanks everyone for listening, for hanging out. Throw us a review, why don't you, up on iTunes. We got a bunch of new listeners recently. Be cool to get some of them on there. And yeah, we have a couple of Patreon exclusive stuff coming up. That podcast with Alex, Austin, and myself talking about Stunt Derby. We're gonna get up the Q&A and a bunch of other things. So keep your eyes peeled for that. We're gonna try and get Frank down here as well in the summertime this month to record some stuff in the studio. So lots going on. Until then, have a nice week. Enjoy the summer games. Bye bye.